KEF. Finally, we have here at the audio studio a KEF speaker. One thing that I always appreciate about these brands is the advanced technology behind their design. Just look at the in-depth R&D on the effectiveness of their metamaterial technology. Amazing. The new KEF Q Concerto Meta is the latest upgrade of their acclaimed Q speaker Q series, paying tribute to the original 1969 Concerto, which was KEF's first three-way Standmount speaker. The new model features the new MKII metamaterial, designed to absorb unwanted sound waves for cleaner and more neutral audio reproduction. At the heart of the Q Concerto Meta we can find the UniQ driver array, where the tweeter is placed at the center of the mid-range cone. During the unboxing I was surprised by their substantial size, so keep that in mind if you are working with limited space. Along with the excellent magnetic grill, we can find the foam plug for the bass reflex port, giving you three configurations options: fully open, half plugged, or fully plugged. And the frequency response on the bottom end changes significantly in base of what you are going to choose. That said, there is a drawback with these options, especially when we connect the full plug. The bass reflex of the Q Concerto Meta airflow is so strong that it actually pushes the foam out of the port, making this setup almost unusable. And KEF could really design a better solution here. I have no idea, they didn't test it or what. So basically you are left with two options, or fully open or half plugged, but also half plugged, as we will see in home theater, just flew away. The design is quite standard with visible edges that are well finished. The white wood veneer is not only beautiful to look at, but also feels premium to the touch. Honestly, I've seen speakers that cost twice much and they don't come as closer in the construction's quality. The LS50 Meta was a masterpiece in terms of build quality, at least externally. And while the Q Concerto Meta doesn't quite reach that level, it comes very close. A minor issue that I noticed is that this speaker is a little bit unbalanced, with the front baffle being noticeably heavier than the rear. I realized this when placing the speaker on the stand. It tended to lean forward, almost at risk of toppling over. My suggestion is to position the speaker slightly further back on the stand to ensure better stability. Not a major issue, but something to be aware of. As always, I performed some measures with REIEW Wizard and MKII from my listening position, so a basic environment check. The first measurement focus on on-axis versus off-axis frequency response. So speaker straight or a maximum tone-in to the microphone. There is a slight 2 dB drop above 5 kHz, but not significant difference, indicating, as we will see also in the sound quality, an excellent horizontal dispersions. I also measured with and without the magnetic grills. There is about 1 dB attenuations in the hikes with the grills on, but it's minimal. By the way, I prefer it without, so you can experiment with this sort of filter, right? Now here is a more interesting graph. As mentioned earlier, the speaker can be used with 3 different bass reflex port settings, besides the issue of the foam plug pushed away at higher volumes. You can see how the bass response changes with a significant plus 10 dB boost in low frequencies. I personally preferred using the half foam plug, as the full plug made the bass too dry, taking away the powerful character typical of the Q Concerto Meta. And the mid bass was also affected so much, and is a warm and powerful, plentiful speaker on the bottom end, so you will have to adjust the distance between the speaker and the back wall. I kept them about 60 centimeters, so around 2 feet away. Alt through 1 meter, around 3.3 feet, might have been better. However, that would have placed them too far into the room. All this to say, aim for at least 50-60 centimeter, at least 2 feet of distance between the speaker and the wall, at least for test. That's meaning if you don't have this distance, if you cannot achieve this distance, probably I will go with a front bass reflex design. 75 dB is my typical listening level in my environment, in stereo and home theater, maybe home theater a little bit more, where 80 dB is already loud for me and 85 is too much for me. At 75 dB the distortions is excellent, with only 19% on the second harmonic distortions below 20 Hz. At 80 dB distortions jump at 40 Hz, again around 17 Hz, and the mid-high frequencies start showing some strain, but is still acceptable. But is at 85 dB the true detected clipping. As you can see, both the woofer and the mid-high frequency spikes significantly. For a speaker of this size, is really perform really good in a medium-sized room like mine. So also it is to take it in considerations, not huge big rooms, medium small is fine. Positioning the Q Concerto Meta in my environment was surprisingly easy, thanks to their wide dispersion. No matter where I placed them, they produced a large soundstage with a focused image. And in the end I preferred them straight, not in at all, still conserving a good pinpoint imaging, but at least artists and the voices were not on my face. The bass, on the other hand, required more attentions, as mentioned early in the video. Closing the pores is practically unusable, as the speaker ends up pushing the foam out. As I said, I placed them about 60 cm, so 2 feet from the rear wall. What I mean is that getting solid bass response is not difficult with this speaker, but keep in mind that you might need to move them further away from the rear wall if you prefer a more defined and less warm bottom end. For my setup I used the Eversolo A6 as streamer connected to the external SPL Diamond deck, and I paired this with my trusty Musical Fidelity M5 SI, so a lot of dynamic, a lot of power for the money, and quality too. These combinations give me an excellent performance, perfect neutral for evaluate the Q Concerto Meta. Mid-range was excellent with hikes a little bit rolled off, but still well refined. However, I found the bass to be a bit heavy and slow. To address this, I swapped the M5 SI for the Audiolab 7000A, but that only worsened the situation. The bass became really exaggerated and imprecise, making unfortunately a less ideal match. My choice of amplifications was somewhat limited to what I had at home, but something told me that the Musical Fidelity A1 would be the perfect match. I was confident its neutral and delicate bass will bring definitions to the Q Concerto Meta, and I was right. Not only did the bass gain textures, but the mids and highs also benefited from the classic warm, sweet touch that only the Class A amplifier like the A1 can provide. And driving the Q Concerto Meta with the A1 almost remind me the sweetness of the Project Box 5 S2, also beautiful speaker that we review, but this time with more body and depth in the bass. The Q Concerto Meta is quite easy to drive, and even the 25 watts from the Musical Fidelity A1 had no trouble pushing them even at higher volumes. It didn't have the dynamic of the Musical Fidelity M5, so if you don't have really to push at higher volumes with orchestra music, something like that, you will not have any problem. And I enjoyed so much this combo. In a previous review of the Yamaha S701, I gave you a B-roll of the Q Concerto Meta. The combinations provided excellent detail and freshness to the musical scenes, with more than enough bass. There was for sure no need for any subwoofer, and the Q Concerto Meta hit infrasonic note effortlessly. However, when listening rock or metal, I found it a bit too exciting, and I did feel the need for a break after a while. Generally, I don't pair such speaker with the high-end amplifier like the Macintosh MC312, because it doesn't usually make sense, but I had some times and decided to give it a try. And I didn't really expect to gain so much from this combination, but I was wrong. The Q Concerto Meta proved to be a speaker where you can invest more in the electronics and still be impressed. The Q Concerto Meta is a speaker that invites and full immersive listening, offering superb musicality and tonal balance at any level. Instruments and vocals are presented with clarity and without any harshness or colorations. I especially appreciate the slightly textured and grainy midrange, which add a cinematic feels to the sound, making it stand out from speakers that are piercing clarity and sharpness. The soundstage is once again something I can't emphasize enough. It's truly exceptional. The room feels boundless, with the speaker disappear into the space, creating an expansive and immersive experience. Everything flows naturally, and track after track I found myself forgetting that I was actually reviewing a speaker. This is exactly what I want from a speaker, and few manage to deliver this kind of presentation. Is everything perfect? Not quite. While the speaker delivers vocal and instruments with impressive airness, there is a slight roll off on the treble. For example, instruments like cymbals could benefit from a little bit more of details, especially in their decay. But that's me being really picky. Overall, KEF has done a fantastic job crafting a speaker that eliminates sibilance, still conserving an airy and open sound. There is another famous British speaker manufacturer that could take notes of this in this department, though I will let you guess who I'm talking about. Another aspect that really impressed me, especially when I compared the Q Concerto Meta to other speakers, is the level of scale. It's as if the canvas is large and the painter has the freedom to paint on a vast surface. Instruments and artists feels almost twice compared to standard speaker. It's like watching a movie at the cinema rather than at home with a 65-inch TV. At least I have a 65-inch TV. Wow, I love that. It's really good. String instruments like acoustic guitars maintain the metallic yet mellow touch that makes them sound incredibly realistic and believable. Bass, kick drum are reproduced with weight, body and power. I could feel the vibrations of lower notes through my sofa. Q Concerto Meta plays really deep and with authority. Needs are where the real magic happens. Both male and female vocals are rendered with excellent tone, and I could easily recognize all my favorite artists without any trouble. At higher volumes, woofers tends to harden a little bit and are not the fastest out there, but it performs totally in line with its price point. What I really appreciate is that this speaker is versatile enough to handle any music genre. You can enjoy classical and jazz and still having fun with the other genre like rock, metal and electronic, and without any need of any subwoofer. KEF, well done. In my previous review I covered the Yamaha amplifier, the AS701, and in the comment sections someone of you guys asked me to test the new Q Concerto Meta with my AVR, the Marantz Cinema 40. Now I stopped using AVR for hi-fi stereo a long time ago when I realized that even a budget $500 integrated amp could drive bookshelf speaker like these with far more precision and dynamics. However, I decided to give it a try because you know guys how much important you are for me, and please subscribe, hit the like buttons and the notifications ring bells, or I don't know, just hit whatever is there to support my channels and give me the motivations that is more important to do what I'm doing. That I love it, yes, but sometimes it's really hard. So I connected the Q Concerto Meta to my Cinema 40 and I turned off my subs. The Tube Perlissence D12S. These two subwoofers are monsters, amazing. And I did some tests in pure direct mode, so without room equalizations. Sound was overall really warm, especially on the bottom end where, lacked a little bit of definition. When I activated room corrections was a little bit better, but was acceptable. I had to crank my Cinema 40 at -10. Generally on home theater I'm around -30, so I have to really push them high. Problem that when it's come to hi-fi, nowadays I have, switching, for example, I did this, switching from the Musical Fidelity A1, the Class A, to the Cinema 40. and it's not easy on my ears. The difference is huge and you can really hear it. Maybe if the Marantz were my only options at home, hope you understand, it's not bad, it's mediocre, it's okay, it's acceptable, but it's not at the level of an integrated amplifier, also a budget one. For cinema, it's a different story. The Q Concerto Meta provide excellent dialogue clarity, plentiful clear, and with great depth.
All right, take it easy. What do you want?
Helicopter. Now!
Off one stand down, we got this situation handled.
During explosions, they fill the room with infrasonic frequencies, and as I mentioned earlier, I didn't feel the need for sub. For this review as comparisons, I choose the first Sonetto, the Sonetto 1 G1, because I had both of them, the 1 and the 2, but I prefer the one with a smaller woofer because it's faster. And the new focal area EVO XN1, which is slightly more expensive than the Q Concerto Meta. At least in Europe, there is not so much difference, maybe 300 bucks. Interesting because KEF and Sonus Faber today are priced almost equal or sometimes less depending on the model, while Focal skyrockets at 2400 for the Aria EVO XN1, so a 60% increase between Europe and US. That's a lot, giving an advantage in terms of value for money to Sonus and KEF compared to Focal. By the way, again I performed some tests for check the frequency response, and as you can see the Focal and KEF are quite similar in the hikes frequencies, with the Sonetto having more extensions, but the key difference is in the bass, where the Q Concerto Meta not only has more bass but it can also reach lower notes, whereas Focals and Sonetto are more restrained, with a tighter, more defined low end but without the warmth that the KEF offers. Both Focals and Sonus are more clinicals to the ear in the mid-range especially, and offering a little bit more details in the hikes, with a drier mid-range and a more defined bass. What I love in the Q Concerto or Concerto, as Italian I should say Concerto, right? Which is lacking in the Sonetto G1 and the new Aria, is that sense of extensions and scale that makes the speaker disappear within the massive soundstage. All three speakers presents relatively easy load to drive, but the KEF is more forgiving and compatible with a wide range of amplifiers. In contrast, Focal and Sonus require more careful pairing. Musically speaking, KEF was excellent with any track I played, while the cleaner, more clinical nature of the other two highlighted flaws in less audiophile grade recordings, resulting in a less engaging experience with such material. Other speakers in this price range that I review on my channels include the Buchardt P300 and the SVS Ultra Evolutions bookshelf. Unfortunately, I no longer have them in my hand, so this is not a side-by-side comparisons, but rather reflections based on my memory, so take it with a grain of salt. The Buchardt P300 remains very warm in the bass, with a rich low-end presence. In the mid-range, the P300 is a bit drier, while both the Buchardt and KEF exhibit a slight roll-off in the highs, making them both easy to listen to for extended periods. SVS Ultra Evolutions is also a bookshelf speaker with a bass reflex design, where the P300 it had how it's called, passive radiator on the back. The SVS offers a very extended and open frequency response, packed with high-end details, a defined yet not overly warm bass, with a touch of colorations in the mid-range, so I suggest to take a look of my review for this. Below you will find the frequency response comparisons with the additions of the LS50 Meta. As I've mentioned, these measures were not taken at the same time, so consider them more of a general guide. Still, you can see how similar the P300 and the Q Concerto Meta are in the bass, with the LS50 Meta struggling in the low without a subwoofer, and the SVS Ultra Evolution showing great high-end extensions without any roll-off. When I finished testing this speaker, I sat down to write this review. I couldn't help but think what an excellent job did KEF They have created a speaker fun to listen without compromising the timbre of instruments and vocals, while adding a sense of scale and soundstage that's second to none, comparable to far more expensive high-end models. And all of these at a price points below $1,500. Then while researching online, I realized it was $1,200. And I thought, wow, it cost even less than I had in mind. KEF, well done. I should mention that I ever tested the R3 Meta at home, but I'd love to. I know it's priced higher and I'd be curious to see if it's offer faster, more defined bass and a touch more details in the hikes. But as it stands, the Q Concerto Meta is easily one of the best speakers under $1,500 that I have reviewed so far. From an audio is everything. I hope you guys enjoy the video. I hope that I give you some informations to let you at home choose, if you don't have the possibility, of course, to go and listen with yourself. That is always the best way, right? For now is everything. Hit the like buttons. Please, if you didn't, subscribe to the channels to support my work, and see you soon.